Hello and welcome to episode 259 of the Random Nintendo Podcast. I'm Kevin.
I'm Angel.
This is the wrong show.
And today we're going to go over the bombshell announcement that is the Nintendo Switch OLED reveal, plus other news like Jason has Sky, a little free-to-play game from that game company. What else do we have on docket? Yeah, that game company?
I haven't played anything, but I think he's also played a game called Fuser, so he'll definitely
This is the wrong show.
What do you mean this is the wrong show? Are you sure?
This is the wrong show.
Hold on. Let me shut the calendar.
Wrong show.
This is the Random Nintendo Podcast, episode 27 for July 11th. I'm your host, Kevin, and to my virtual left, we have Jason.
This is the right show.
And to my virtual right, we have Angel.
That's me again.
Yep, my apologies. I had the podcast dates mixed up.
But don't worry, guys. All that stuff is coming. Just you wait.
It's been about a month since the last QC or Arnon, Ranon. What else do we call this podcast? Off pod.
I think Arnon, pretty much.
Arnon?
I don't know. Why do we put the
we
R?
started calling Arnin for
legit question. Why when we talk amongst ourselves do we need to specify the R? We all know what we're talking about. Why is it not just Nin and Non?
Because one was always called RN. It's not like we just say N. And we can't
True,
just call
but
this
now
one
we
RN
can't,
as well.
But right, but we could do Nin Non.
Nin Non?
Nin and Non. Nin and Non. We don't need the R.
Is this a nin?
A thumb muscle
nin
press.
week? Is this a non week?
Does it? Yeah, at least when we plan internally. Although I guess that means, is it a non-week? Does that mean the week doesn't have one? Then
planning has never been our strong suit.
No, it hasn't.
We all know we don't have any non-weeks.
Yeah. No, that's not true. We didn't have, to Kevin's point, an R-non 2 weeks ago.
We have non-nin weeks. We don't have any non-nin weeks. There you go.
I feel like we live in a Dr. Seuss book now with all the nins and nons, and it feels like we're going to start rhyming or something. It's a nin week. It's a non week. It's a red week.
Nin weeks definitely can't be non weeks, but I guess sometimes a non week can be a nin week if some of the non topics can be on nin stuff. But
yes,
it's totally revolving around nin.
I blanked out for a second there because when Angel said, "I guess we don't have any non weeks," I just remember that picture of Mr. Burns pointing to the sign. Don't forget, you're here forever. Yep. We're here forever.
Kind of how it is.
Never have your blog posts for QC and R-non been more applicable.
Jason made us sign a contract in blood.
Actually, yeah, if no one has gone to, because we're on your podcast app. We always say that at the end of every episode. We're on every app. But if you guys haven't gone to randomtown.com and read the descriptions for QC and now R-non, Kevin has told a deep, moving, relatively short per blog post story that arcs the entire length of this non and QC life. So go check it out if you haven't. It really paints me and Round Nintendo in a horrible light, but it's good.
No, technically you weren't part of RN.
I assumed I was just because I'm a power hog. Oh, great! So I'm not in a horrible light. Cool.
You're
more reason to read it.
You're what's his name? Gabe, I think from Silicon Valley. You're kind of like
Gabe. Okay, I'll be Gabe.
Yeah, you're like the Gabe. You're like the liaison.
Yeah.
But you're still terrible, that kind of thing.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll take that over also running the gulag. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, if you read the blog post, you'll get that reference.
Oh yeah, we were stuck in the gulag for a couple of months.
Yeah, pretty. During the cold pandemic winter months, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, I guess this is gonna be the shortest intro to topics that I think we've ever covered, unless you guys want to talk about something. Angel, I know you just went to Universal.
Yeah, kind of out of nowhere too. We were literally just, gonna, take the mother out as a family, just take somewhere. I think initially we were just gonna go hiking, but then I guess as things started opening up, my sisters are like, "Hey, let's go to Universal." When was the last time we took my mom to Universal? If anything, the last time we went with her was probably when she took us, as younglings, guessing around 10 years old, 10, 12, 13, maybe younger. So, my brother, the last thing he was able to get on was, E.T. and Back to the Future, which have been long since gone. So, this was pretty much a new park for him. There was no Harry Potter World. There was,
Simpsons?
I guess it's strict. Well, that's what replaced Back to the Future.
Right.
Jurassic Park was still Jurassic Park and
Oh
not the
damn, he
Jurassic
loves
World
Back to the
ride.
Future too.
Yeah, that was a really cool ride, but it unfortunately had to go. And it was really fun. I mean, for better or worse, I guess I won't say for worse, but like I've pretty much been going to Universal at least once every 2 years. Usually, sometimes, I don't know, we just random. I don't remember why we went one time randomly during Father's Day. I think we just had an open weekend and we're like, let's just go check out Simpsons World. Oh, because they had I guess here in California, they usually have every summer or at some point, like a buy a day, get a year free. I don't know if they still do that, but I feel like that was a very consistent thing. And usually we would jump on that deal, and that's usually why we usually just end up going a lot. Or I would be the tour guide, so to speak, whenever family from Mexico would come over. Like I would be the one that chaperoned them around Universal, and my sister would do the same for Disneyland, so that we could have some time to rest. But that being said, yeah, it's still a fun park. We did everything, like literally everything we got there, let's see, I think we got there like at 9:30 and we left like at 6. And the only two things, we did everything but the Minions ride and the DreamWorks Theater, which used to be the Shrek 3D show. And the Minions thing also being another, sit in a theater with 3D glasses show. And there's also a new Life of Pets ride that you can't make a line in physically, you have to make a virtual line. We also missed that, but... Oh, and I guess also Mummy, but that was also by choice. It's because we've gone on that ride so many times, and it's a fun ride, but anything more than like 20 minutes is not worth it. Waiting time, that is. Because it's incredibly short. For a coaster, it doesn't really have a lot of drop. It's pretty much like a half as great as Space Mountain. So, because it's incredibly comparable to Space Mountain. They're both in a dark room. You see like glow-in-the-dark neon mummies. And then at some point you just ride the ride backwards. But it's over before you know it. And on average, the line was like 30 to 70 minutes long. No, 60 to 70 minutes long. Which is definitely not worth it. But, first thing we did was get on Transformers. I usually make it a habit to go all the way to the lower floor first. Because it just takes forever to get there. Because there's a lot of escalators you have to take. And we were able to get in the Transformers ride like within 15 minutes, because usually that ride also becomes like an hour and a half long wait before long. And that ride is still really cool. Unfortunately, some of the screens are starting to feel a little dated in the sense that they're just kind of blurry. Like, or they just need to be lit more. Some screens look better than others, but you could tell like they're still running the exact same. Like they haven't really, I guess, upped it in any way. The technology is starting to just feel a little dated, but 3D effects are still really cool. You still get that sense of motion compared to other, I guess, screen 3D rides. Because this one is actually on a track that moves around while you're wearing the glasses. So, you get cityscapes, you get a bunch of crazy other effects. And I don't know, it's definitely a nice evolution of the Back to the Future ride. Because that one, had the car that like rises up and then it's just moving, shaking back and forth. It's pretty much exactly what the Simpsons ride does because it's built on the same place. I mean, that's kind of what a lot of Universal's rides are. With the exception of Jurassic Park and the Secret Life of Pets one, which I know what that one's like. They're all pretty much sit in a room and watch a screen and to simulate being on a crazy roller coaster. Which is really effective in terms of space, but you're not really going to get... They start to feel samey after a while, like you just kind of get tired and you're like, alright, I'm kind of ready for something else, even though the rides themselves can be really cool. Like, I mean, the Simpsons ride just does a great job of making you feel like you're flying all over the place, going down like a death drop that's like coming from space. But, you can only sit down and watch a screen for so long before it kind of loses a little bit of its luster. Which is kind of why, it's nice to jump from Transformers to Jurassic Park to the studio tour, which...
They have a Fast and Furious right now, don't they?
Yeah, like, besides the Fast and Furious, they've since updated a while ago, the King Kong section to the Peter Jackson King Kong 360 3D. But that was, I think, because there was a fire that literally destroyed the giant King Kong, like, animatronic, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah,
but,
it's kind of ironic because the whole set pieces, there's a fire, but then the fire became real.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Like, I mean, I've obviously done the studio tour many times already, so I've seen the 360 3D and the Fast and Furious thing. And I will say that, like, in the queue, whenever the Fast and Furious people pop up, like, here's the trailer for Fast 9. And they're like, oh, now you're about to embark on the must-see thing of Universal Studios. It's, like, the best thing in the world. Like, you help us save the world, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, I mean, it's over the top and ridiculous. I mean, the first time you jump into these things, it's really cool just being like, whoa, it's like we're on the streets, or it's like we're driving through the jungle, and T-Rexes are fighting all around us. But after you've done it a couple times more,
wait, in the Fast and Furious ride?
Well, Fast and Furious, Kevin, is inside the studio tour for the
Hollywood so pretty much
they have a dedicated ride down in Florida.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. I mean, at the rate Fast is going, yes, one of them they're going to be fighting dinosaurs. They're running out of ideas.
Universal exec has gone on record as saying he wants a Jurassic World and Fast and Furious crossover.
Which is silly as
Which
that
means
sounds.
That I want a Fast and Furious and Jurassic World crossover.
I was about to say, as silly as that sounds, right up there with when they wanted to merge Jump Street and Men in Black. Like, I would watch it. How did Jonah Hill... Remember that leaked email from the Sony leak where Jonah Hill's like, how did he describe the Men in Black Jump Street crossover? Like, because they pitched him it, and he was something like, oh, that's cool and poignant and powerful or something. That's how I feel about Fast and Jurassic as well. Yes. Cool
poignant.
And poignant.
I don't know
powerful.
About poignance, but... sorry, Angel, continue.
Yeah, sorry, Angel.
But essentially, yeah, after you read them a few times, you start to kind of wish the screens were just better resolution or just like things looked a little clearer. Like, I don't know. I mean, it feels like the technology is there now, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't
Angel,
really seen...
Does Harry Potter, to the same extent, use screens? I thought that was a little more, like, physical, right?
Oh, yeah, I'll get to that one right now. But
oh, okay. Because Super Nintendo World, obviously, to put a little R-nin and R-non, that, too, is more physical, from my understanding.
Yeah, that one seems to be more comparable to the Transformers one, but actually even less so. It's probably more comparable to the Harry Potter one. But, yeah, Fast and Furious section, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you see, like, freaking... Vin Diesel hanging off of a helicopter while talking to you kind of casually. Just like
about
flying
family,
around.
Right? Talking about
family.
But,
yeah, long. A lot of places. It really is kind of cool just seeing the entrance to Super Nintendo World right next to the Transformers section. Like, you can see, like, the wireframe of the pipe that would be the entrance as you're coming down, and you could just stand right in front of it. And they just have a giant, wall that just says Super Nintendo World coming soon. But... yeah, the only other new areas, well, it's the Harry Potter area. The butterbeer does taste really good, as they say it does. I guess if you're not really into something super sweet, then it probably won't be for you, but kind of caramelly. I thought it was going to be more like vanilla soda, or cream soda-ish, but still really good.
You can actually add alcohol into it, right?
Yeah, if you go to one of the bars in Harry Potter, Little Harry Potter Town, there's a place where you could ask like for a shot of rum on it, and they will do it.
Wait, is it actually carbonated? Is it like a soda, basically, like a cream soda, but caramel?
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of weird to describe, but yeah, it is kind of like a soda, kind of a little thicker. It's kind of weird.
Interesting.
But it's good. It's definitely worth tasting once. But dang, yeah, if you get into that Harry Potter line, you kind of have to decide whether... I mean, if you're a bigger Harry Potter fan, I would definitely suggest making that the first ride you get on, because the line for that one gets really long. Like, the queue for it, you're, like, outside zigzagging for, like, forever. I think when we got on, it was, like, an hour wait. And we were outside for what felt like forever. It was, like, maybe 30, 40 minutes. And then when you get inside the castle, you have, like, a moment to, like, store your backpack in a locker. And I guess during that time, if you're quick enough, you could essentially skip a bunch of people, because... the line just kind of dissipates there, and it's just a matter of, as soon as you're done, just get back into the line, and then you're just zigzagging through corridors of Hogwarts, which are really well done. Like, as far as, like, ambiance, like, it's really great. And the ride itself, I mean, it's also just really fun. I mean, you're pretty much sitting, like, on I guess it's very comparable to Haunted Mansion. Like, everything's, like, it starts on a track, you sit in groups of 4, and then you just, like, fasten, like, your harness, and... yeah, the thing will rotate in every which way. There's a couple screens that are supposed to simulate you flying all over Hogwarts, but there are a couple other sections where you're just, moving through a spooky haunted house, basically, with a big budget. So it's definitely like a mixture of both. So yeah, it kind of is kind of like the Transformers one, I guess. Just
all
a
the
little
Hogwarts
more
Express?
analog than anything.
Isn't there like a one where you're on the Hogwarts Express or something, or is that only in Florida?
That must be only in Florida, because here in California, we just have this one where I guess you're on brooms, or I'm not really sure what you're supposed to be on. But you're just following Harry, who's on a broom.
Well, that's some good world building. We're on something. I couldn't tell you what, even though I did it, but we're on something. Like, good job, Universal.
You're just in chairs. You're in a harness, yeah.
A broom chariot.
And there's that one, and there's another ride called
the rides at Universal. They're all like nothing's really a coaster, right? Like nothing does a loop.
Nothing ever does a loop. The closest you can get is just the Mummy ride, and the other Harry Potter one, I think it's called like Ride of the Hippogriff or something along those lines. That one's just like a smaller scale coaster. Like a starter coaster.
That's what I was thinking of. That's what I was thinking of.
Gotcha.
That's kind of like I would say, for younger people that aren't as experienced with coasters, that's like a really good one. But normally it's like one of those that you just kind of ignore. They do have a Hogwarts train there. But
it's the riding Yoshis of Harry Potter, like what Nintendo World has. It sounds like.
Yeah, just a little more intense. Definitely not like that. Okay. That one definitely seems like
just you bet I'm going to ride those Yoshis,
that one's
man.
leisurely. Like that one, you're just like, you're on like a Pokemon Snap Safari just without Pokemon. Like it's that slow from what I gathered.
Exactly. But, Universal's cool. Funny merchandise. They still sell a lot of ET stuff. Definitely makes me miss the ET ride. Even though there's like no reference to ET. The only reference you get to Back to the Future is really just Doc Brown's skit in the Simpsons ride, Line Q, where I guess he's about to like sign a contract with Universal to like extend his lease in that area for a lot longer, but I guess Professor Free goes back in time to save the Back to the Future ride, but ends up causing him to lose it to Krusty, which is why I guess they have Krusty World there. Or that's their canonical explanation.
A little corporate synergy. There we go.
Yeah, that's some solid meta referencing right there.
The only thing that I thought was weird, like, actually I don't even know if either of you two know this, or if this is just like a known thing, but, Disney owns Simpsons. It doesn't seem like something Disney would ever put in a Disneyland, like, a Simpsons world, or like try to move that there, or like, do we know if it's like a kind of contract thing where it's like, oh, they are allowed to have the Simpsons world for like 10 more years, but as soon as that license is over, yeah, Disney's taking it back, and they're probably going to add it to California Adventure, which feels like the place where they would put it.
That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure. I know they ran into a similar problem where Six Flags has licensed, a bunch of Marvel characters for roller coasters and for like character appearances in their
there's a Marvel
parks.
park over there from Universal.
Yeah, and I think they're still there. So I think there
was a
know,
Spider-Man stage show in Universal.
Yeah, there's a Spider-Man stage show.
Yeah, they took that away, so it's like if they can't have everything.
It's weird it's like a weird content on like the corporate like America right now, where everything's becoming these like super mega companies and everyone's snatching up everything else. Because before everyone, carved out their own little niche and had their own brands that they licensed to various people, but now it's all just like 3 companies. Because Universal's Comcast, who owns NBC and a bunch of other stuff. So like they're not Disney size, but they're very close. So like I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the contracts look like, to your question, but I wouldn't be surprised if over time they start phasing out, whether contractually or by choice, some of the quieter parts of the park that may use properties that aren't theirs. Like I don't know where Simpsons would go because that's pretty popular, and then phase in like, I don't know, NBC Comedy Thursday Land or something. It's like, look, you're in like the Superstore from Superstore, and now you're in Pawnee, Indiana, or like something dumb like that because they want to do that corporate synergy.
Yeah. I mean, as nicely said as Nintendo World looks, I kind of wish it had like more room to breathe. So they just keep expanding it, but yeah.
Well, there is a phase 2 rumored. So Donkey Kong, happy 40th Donkey Kong! A couple days ago, he turned 40. But yeah, there is plans for a phase 2, at least in the Japanese and Florida ones.
Well, yeah. If you're in the I think Universal's like $129 for a day, so definitely it feels pricey.
$129?
Yeah, I want to say it used to be under $100 for a day.
It did.
How much does Disneyland cost for a day?
I think with the park hopper, like over $150.
I think it's like $175 now or something.
Yeah, but you get to go to both parks though. But it is just for one day, which means you're obviously not going to see everything in both. And with the way things are like, lining up, no pun intended, it seems like you barely have any chance to go to a lot.
Oh,
of
how was
events
the crowd?
Very packed. Half are wearing masks, half are wearing not masks. It was just like a normal day at the theme
like
park.
thongs on their face. Or?
Yeah, yeah. It was like 50% maskless and with masks. All the employees were wearing masks, and there were a lot of hand sanitizer dispensers all over the place, but only about like half of them actually had anything.
See, that's something to commend Disney when I was there. I think I mentioned it on the show, but they had hand sanitizers everywhere, and they were all always full. I don't know what Mickey Mouse Fantasia sorcery they were doing to pull that
someone
off.
That's literally just looking at
like
them,
doing
that's
laps like constantly. Because there was never one that was low. There was never one. They had different like squirt speeds, so to speak. Like they weren't all the same dispenser, but like you were always in arm's reach of hand sanitizer, which was kind of insane to think about the logistics of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it in many weird ways, the fact that Universal only had half their sanitizers full almost feels like the perfect commentary on the difference between Disneyland and Universal.
Well, I'm sure it's also
definitely a little rough around the edges.
issues, you know.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm being a little facetious,
but it's chill. I mean, I don't think I like it more than Disneyland, but it definitely has some things. You know, it has some stuff I really like there. Only thing that I thought was just interesting or didn't really go like, huh? I think a week and a half ago, or maybe I think it was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. But I went to a place called Frankenstein's, which, to those of you not in the Los Angeles area, or I guess wherever Frankenstein's are, it's just like a giant warehouse that's basically like the exhibition floor of any convention, where you just have a bunch of booths with people selling just a bunch of random stuff. Typically all in the nerd culture themed world. You know, you got your figures, you got your cards, you got your rare video games, all that stuff. And I was looking for a Soundwave figure that I had pre-ordered from Big Bad Toy Store online for it was like $205 because it's like a really high-end Soundwave figure that's modeled after his appearance in the Bumblebee movie. You know, super detailed, super blah blah blah. It's a really cool looking figure. And I was looking for one at Frankenstein's thinking, if I see it for that price, I'll just buy it then and there so I don't have to wait for it to ship. And didn't find it there, but I did see it at Universal. I guess they actually have a section of like their gift shop where they actually have some high-end collectibles that I was kind of surprised to see there. And I was like, maybe I'll just get it now. But it was like $420. Oh, $420.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I don't know how or why. Like, all it would take... It's readily available. It's not like a rare thing to find. I just find it interesting that, like, they double the price, like, at an official licensed place where I could just get it for, like, less than half of that, like, at an online retailer. But
because they are 100% banking on not you buying it, but 6-year-old Lil Timmy, shout out to Lil Timmy, I haven't dropped his name on the podcast in a long time, but he going, Mom, I want that, and her going, well, they don't sell those out by us in Kansas, and just buying it because they don't know better.
Yeah, and like also foreign visitors,
foreign.
Tourists from other countries, I'm sure, look at that and think that it's a steal without looking more into it.
It's literally a gift shop tourist trap.
Yeah.
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 Very scummy.
Super scummy.
Yeah, well,
but they're all guilty of that.
Get your Bort keychains, because, of course, they're going to make that reference.
Your what keychains?
Bort. From that episode of The Simpsons where Bart was looking for
you're talking about Simpsons. I was like, who in Transformers is named Bort?
Oh, no.
It's like, what are you talking about?
There's probably a Transformers called Bort.
I'm sure, yeah. There's probably a Bort and an Arnie or something for like some weird robot Bert and Ernie.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
But, yeah, that's Universal.
Cool.
Kevin, since you were asking about masks, have you found as you go back in the world that, like, what's your experience been with, especially because you, like, are often at a stadium full of people, is mask use dropping in what you're seeing?
Almost entirely, with the exception of employees. Like, whenever we have guests or fans, nobody's wearing a mask. And
you guys aren't mandating it, right?
Nope. Not until
which makes sense, 'cause
California says that, hey, this Delta variant is spreading like crazy, so we gotta have everybody start wearing masks again. But
I really hope when they get up to the podium and make that announcement, if they have to make that announcement, which hopefully they don't, but I hope if they do make that announcement, they say it exactly how you just said. Well, it's spreading like crazy, guys. Like, here we go.
Like crazy, guys. Everybody wear your masks. Yeah, I can see what's his name?
Newsom just leaning in on the podium and being like, "Oh, well, guys, you got a recon. It's spraying like crazy."
What can I do? He just like shrugs, you know. Yeah,
but yeah, it's the reason I ask is because I'm noticing it too as I'm out. I mean, to be honest, if I'm like in an outdoor mall or something, I'm not usually wearing one at this point. But there've been a couple instances, like there's a store I went to, and then the Largo Comedy Club here in LA, where they do still require masks, which I thought was interesting. They don't even necessarily advertise it as such for the case of like Largo. Like you buy your ticket, you go, and then they're just like, "Cool, you're here. Put your mask on." Like they don't tell you in advance you need to bring your mask. They just hope everyone still has them. But better safe than sorry, I'd say. And for those who don't know what Largo is, that if you guys have paid any attention to Conan O'Brien's final couple weeks of shows, like where he smoked with Seth Rogen, or where, you know, all that stuff, or Paul Rudd showed that Macamee clip the last time that went viral, all that stuff, that is Largo. It's a tiny theater here in LA for a comedy. It's like an independent one. But, I was there for Conan, and then I was there, actually last night, for Ben Schwartz. He did an improv show with some friends, including Horatio Sands from SNL and the dude that played Pillboy on The Good Place, which was like John Ralphio and Pillboy in the same place at the same time. Was really like kind of a cool side character Avengers thing. Anyway, point being, they required masks, and it was just kind of interesting because I haven't seen anyone really do that anymore. So once you mentioned that, I was curious where your stadium stands.
It's funny. I went to Hell on Tuesday, also known as the California DMV, and I forgot to take a mask with me. But so I go to the DMV and I enter, and like there's security all around the place. But like everybody's looking at me without my mask, and I'm like, okay, I mean, no one's saying, "Hey, you need a mask to be in here." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, they're gonna be lax with their rules." And if they asked me to put on the mask, I probably would have left and either try to find them buy a mask or ask for one, you know. But nobody asked me for one. Yet I was still the only one in that goddamn office without a mask. I was the only person in there without a mask. I felt like such an ass. And like no one was treating me any different. No one was looking at me weird. It was just, I was just very self-conscious about being the only person in that office without a mask. And what sucked afterwards was I had gotten dropped off at the DMV. I was like, okay, I'll take an Uber. I realized that Ubers still require masks. And so I had to cancel my Uber and I had to walk home. It wasn't that bad. It was like a 3.5 mile walk back to home, but
still
I was like, forgot that I should probably just keep a mask just in case.
That's the interesting thing about the mask situation now. Is like I understand like we're all in this together, we're trying to help each other, but there's definitely like a situation where you may not have one and everyone else does, and like, are they judging you? Should they be judging you? You're vaccinated. Are they vaccinated? You know, what's common courtesy? What's just situational? Like if you go to the Grove out here, like the mall, like no one's wearing masks. But you like I said, I walked into Largo yesterday, hadn't masked in my pocket fortunately, but like everyone just instinctively brought their masks and put them on and no questions asked. Like it's just interesting how it's like just a social construct now versus a sort of truly medical thing. Like it's not a state issued thing, as you point out. It's not a health board issued thing. It's just kind of like socially what's considered acceptable in these different scenarios. And you were in a weird one where it was acceptable, but it's just weird. Like that's kind of, you're really in like that gray area. So it's gonna be interesting over the next few years, what mask use looks like. But it seems like people are dropping it really quick.
Yeah.
I'm sure
the opposite. Oh, sorry.
I'm sure like once COVID is out of the vernacular, for lack of a better word, I'm sure masks aren't going to be a thing or a requirement. But at least for another year, like having a mask, like in your pocket, just in case someplace does require it. Like I'm not going to be an a-hole and be like, what? But I'm vaccinated, and California isn't requiring it, because it's a no shirts, no shoes, no service kind of deal. Just add the no mask on there.
Exactly.
Yeah. They asked me to put on a mask. I'm gonna put on a mask. I'm not gonna be a Karen about it. Sorry, Karens that listen to this podcast.
Did I tell you guys that the grocery store around the corner from my apartment is one of the ones that the anti-mask people used to go protest in during like the peak of COVID? I missed them by an hour once, and I was so glad I missed them. Like, I went there like an hour before they got there, and I was like I saw it on the news. I'm just like, oh god, because I was in peak, like, I don't want to be around that mode because obviously COVID was at its peak. But yeah, it was a common thing over here. Unfortunately, happened 2 or 3 times, and I have a security guard there.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say, Angel?
Oh no, I was gonna say that I was at the Natural History Museum / Science Center yesterday, and they did like require a mask like to enter. They were very strict about it, except when you're outside. They were like literally like as soon as you like pass this line, like you need to have your mask on. But most of us carried our masks anyway. But I thought it was, I guess it's interesting because like, some places like you guys were mentioning, like actually, you're better off just having it because you never know which places are like straight up like enforcing it. Otherwise, you can't answer. And like I'm not gonna fight it. Yeah.
Like Angel when we were in at that Japanese gift shop,
the little Japanese store. Yeah, they literally kicked someone out. That like no, like no mask.
Yeah, like someone tried to walk in, they like rushed the door and like you can't be here without a mask. It's really intense, actually. But
and then they glared at Jason, and then it's like,
what? Why'd they glare at me? I was wearing a mask. I was a good, diligent customer. Actually, I didn't buy anything, so I guess I wasn't a quiet customer. But
you were a window shopper.
I was a peruser. Yeah, window shopper. Yeah,
peruser. I like that word.
Thank you.
All right. Well, a word or a thing that Angel saw.
You don't like
in Universal.
Yeah.
I guess that Transformers ride is technically canon.
It's weird because it seems like it uses footage from the second movie, like in its little sizzle reel before you get on the ride, where they're like, "Oh, we have a piece of the Allspark that Megatron wants, and Ravage, like he stole it. You're gonna jump on this Transformer named Evac because you're riding an actual Transformer," which is the concept's cool. They do it in some interesting ways, and you pretty much kill Megatron with the Allspark, just like in the first movie. So it's weird. So I don't know. It's we'll call it a what if, like that one thing.
I believe Michael Bay did direct that.
Really?
Yeah. Or he had some sort of involvement with it because it's what got him. I remember him saying, seeing that is what made me want to do the sequel or something along those lines. Or maybe it was the third movie. Anyways, I forced these guys to watch Transformers last week after our recording of Random Nintendo.
Yeah,
and
we did.
Yes, you did.
That's the movie.
It was
things
it
happened
is a
in front of our
2 hour and
eyes.
20 something
2 hours
long
and 50,
movie.
50.
What? It's that long?
Wasn't it nearly 3 hours? Well, I mean, if you cut out
it
the credits,
felt like 6 hours. If we're being honest,
it was an experience that happened.
Where do we start with this movie?
Collective trauma.
Yeah, I think Angel summed it up the best. Where Angel, whenever I hear him talk about movies, like what was that earwig getting the witch?
Oh, the Ghibli one that just ended.
Yeah, and like I think your reaction to that was like, "Oh, it's fine." And usually I feel like that's your response to a lot of movies. And then this one, I think I heard you say, I don't remember the last time that I saw an outright bad movie.
Yeah, the pacing was. I mean, it's funny because like Earwig had pacing, but I was able to just like, I was able to enjoy the moment to moment. But this one just had like, it just had me like asking questions. It had me like thinking like that doesn't make sense for a Transformers movie. I don't know, like there was just, it was weird. It just felt all over the.
We collectively lost the plot like 4 different times.
So much happens in this movie that gets thrown away for 2 hours and then comes back at the very end. There's a time gun in this movie that gets shot in the middle of the movie, like an hour and 30 minutes in. And I remember thinking like, what happened to the time gun? At the very end, they use it. I'm like, oh, that's what happened to the time gun.
I remember when they first showed the time gun, you were like, that's the only time we're going to see that. That's a weird throwaway. Like, it made no sense. They didn't explain it. It made no sense. It just happened. And then you're like,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then, it was the only time that we saw it up until the very end. Yeah.
Yep. I think that movie was... The problem with Transformers and kind of with Michael Bay in general is he always needs to one-up himself. I mean, every movie franchise, every sequel, they need to like kind of one-up themselves. And that's why, every so often it's nice when a studio that does a big thing, does a little thing. Like I know eventually we're going to talk about Luca with Pixar once Angel sees it, and maybe you, Kevin. But like, what was nice about that is like they didn't try and keep raising stakes. They're just like, you know what if we do like a small project? The problem with Transformers is they had to keep raising stakes because there's literally no other option. So like someone at some point had probably an idea board that's like, all right, well, what if like Transformers were actually an ancient alien species that like fought with King Arthur? All right, that's one idea. What if they maybe fought the Nazis? All right, that's another idea. What if there's time travel? Sure, that's an idea. What if like the Earth is bad? I guess that could be an idea. And then instead of picking them, yeah, exactly. And instead of picking any one idea, you know, like they had the idea board that you start with every writer's group with. Instead of picking them, they just took them all and shoved them in. Didn't matter if it worked. Didn't matter if it made sense. Didn't matter if a character was only there for 2 minutes or a gun was there for 10 seconds. Anything they came up with had to be in there because they just had to make the stakes that high. So there's literally a scene where there are Transformers fighting Nazis for about, I don't know, 70 seconds.
Yeah, they show
and
the
had a
ones that
whole
killed
elaborate
Hitler.
set and get some, yeah, exactly. And oh yeah, and the Transformers killed Hitler, right? But they had to make this whole elaborate set and get all these big Nazi symbols and put them all up for a 70-second scene just because someone pitched it in a writer's room and they're like, yeah, I guess. Like, that's what the whole movie felt like, you know? Like, it was just like these random ideas that they kind of strung together and then somehow got Anthony Hopkins to, like, explain.
Dude, Anthony Hopkins must have gotten paid so much money because I'm sure he's won a bunch of Academy Awards for his
sure.
He's a great actor. He's a great actor. I don't know how much he must have gotten paid for this, and I'm gonna assume that he had the time of his life because his character is all over the place from being like this mysterious / serious guy to just let's mute that 37-29 to like just throwing around S-bombs and all sorts of profanity. There's his little Transformer assistant, Cogman. That was his name?
Yeah,
The butler. Yeah.
Cogman.
He's also insane. It sounds like he's going to be sort of like this guide or like, you know, just a kind of like the Alfred to Anthony Hopkins' Bruce Wayne. No, Cogman is also an asshole, just like Anthony Hopkins. The love interest is terrible. They like force the chemistry. Oh God, I forgot to even talk about. How could we talk about this movie without Marky Mark?
Good old Marky Mark in the.
Yeah, killed off Wiki.
Oh, they killed off Shia. They killed off Shia LaBeouf off screen. Oh yeah, it's implied that he's dead off screen.
Which is like some weird. Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, good old Marky Mark, Cade Yeager, who sounds like a drink you get at a dive bar.
Cade Yeager.
Yeah, I'll take a Cade Yeager.
Yeah, let me take Cade Yeager. Yeah, it's
he's an inventor. Yeah,
he's an inventor, which they had to bring up hundreds of times. Like they didn't bring that up hundreds of times in the last movie, which I still haven't finished, and I refuse to finish. And that one's supposed to be better than this one.
I mean, yeah, the bar's really low, Kevin, for anything to be better than this one. Like, to be fair.
So there's a scene where they massacred. Well, I mean, this franchise has massacred a lot of Transformers, but the one that hurts the most, I think, was Hot Rod. Which Hot Rod is a very important player in like OG Transformers. I don't keep up with Transformers as much as I assume you do, Angel. I don't know if Hot Rod is still like a main player. I think they essentially replaced Bumblebee with Hot Rod, right?
They technically replaced Optimus with Hot Rod.
No. My bad. I meant like they.
Oh, in this movie, yeah.
Like the way. No, I mean just in general, Transformers media. Hot Rod was always sort of like the right hand man, and then the first movie came out, and Bumblebee became the right hand man. Because I remember watching that cartoon on Fox Kids.
Because typically, at least like the way I remember, like Hot Rod was always positioned just to be the new Prime, just to always replace Optimus.
Well, what I'm saying is Hot Rod was way more important than Bumblebee, was he not?
Well, yeah. I mean, Bumblebee is always just like a side person. He's never. I mean, the only time he was ever like the main character was like in one of the series that came after Transformers Prime, where he was the leader, but there was no Hot Rod in that show.
Gotcha. But like what I'm saying is like originally, you know, Hot Rod did become Rodimus Prime. He in the movie, but then when the new movies when the first movie came out, it felt like Bumblebee became sort of the heart and soul of the series. Where I feel Hot Rod should have been that, because I remember the cartoon on Fox Kids, Robots in Disguise, before the Energon trilogy, I think, came out. Hot Rod was like one of the main characters alongside.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know what it was all of a sudden that they're just like, I don't know, I guess they just picked Bumblebee. Maybe they just thought that was like the most marketable, and that's just what they went with.
Maybe the most iconic because he's a Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah.
And
he wasn't even in most of the movies except for the last one. But
Bumblebee.
And, man, does he show up in the last movie.
But then it's like, I don't know who these like references are for, because like, as a Transformers fan, it's like, oh, it's Hot Rod. Oh, he's French for some reason and has a time gun. I don't know, like, it's like he's just kind of there. Like, a lot of characters, a lot of like name drops are just there.
They're there so they can make toys and sell them. That's it. They don't care if they pay homages to the fans. They know that 6-year-old little Timmy, that's two shout-outs in a row, is going to go, oh my god, Hot Rod, I want that toy. He has a time gun. But that's like what Transformers were supposed to be, just like giant commercials for kids. Yeah.
But even then, like in the past, I mean, I guess it felt like they were trying. Every once in a while, they definitely try. Like the Transformers Prime TV show, like that thing was awesome. They really tried on that one. Even for the original 80s one, they sometimes tried, like to make things like make sense, and like I don't know, it was really great. This one just felt like they're just like, all right, we checked it off. We name dropped this guy. I guess we're good.
I feel like it goes back to what I was saying before, that like their goal, they did try. They tried to make the most bombastic, over-the-top, thing you've never seen Transformers do movie. And that meant it didn't matter about characters. That meant it didn't matter about plot. That meant it didn't matter about, like, they're going to introduce this girl that, like, Kate Yeager kind of adopts, and then she's going to vanish, only then show up and just kind of be there for no reason. They did all that just because they needed to connect the dots for the set pieces. I really feel like that. Like, the mission, in my mind, the mission of this movie wasn't to tell the story of, like, you know, Cade Yeager trying to save robot. Like, the premise is...
Cade Yeager becoming the last knight.
Yeah, but, like, you know,
he gets a sword at the end of the movie.
Literally, yeah. And I feel like going into it, they had these ideas of, like, okay, well, the robots in, like, an X-Men way are kind of like outlaws now, and, like, you know, the government's hunting them down, but there's Cade Yeager who's trying to rescue them and keep the peace.
For the second movie in a row... They're being hunted down for the second movie in a row. After, presumably, they saved the world in the last one, they're still being hunted down.
Yeah.
And as if these guys haven't been saving the world for however the time span of these movies is.
And let's even run with that. Let's say, okay, so they are doing that plot again. They kind of unceremoniously dropped it really quick and just like, oh, well, Cade's important. Never mind that he's saving him. We don't even need to show you those scenes. Really, he's important because he's this knight. So now let's do this knight thing. And then they just kind of like jumped around, and all of it was, again, in my opinion, just to make the set pieces happen. Because if you like look at the movie, like if you like look at it like it's a series of like animated movie posters, the entire climax is all orange and blue like a movie poster. It's all framed so many, like movie posters.
Climaxes that were like, oh, the movie's gonna end.
Yeah, there's like 7. Yeah, but the entire thing just felt like. Michael Bay was not... The only way to one-up the spectacle is to literally make it entirely about spectacle. So it was shot like it was these cool stills they could promote it with. It was shot like it was a bunch of movie posters. It just felt
my God,
like
the
a thing that
aspect ratio.
Existed.
Right.
Yeah.
The aspect ratio keeps changing every 3 seconds in this movie. There were some scenes of like Anthony Hopkins talking to somebody, and it was filmed in IMAX. Why did that have to get filmed in IMAX?
And it wasn't
Anthony
even just
Hopkins
that.
talking to some person.
It'd be him facing them talking IMAX. They cut to the person responding, not IMAX. They cut back to him
exactly.
IMAX. And again, I think it's because they're just checking the boxes from bombast, you know? So they're like, oh, it's going to be 80% IMAX this time, guys. What's that mean? Oh, well, every 5 seconds we're going to turn it back on or off. Like, it just, the whole thing was built not as a movie to tell a story, which I feel like is kind of mean to the writers, but honestly, it felt like the movie was built as essentially the Universal ride for 3 hours.
Speaking of that, definitely have to mention that there was a point towards the end where there were, I guess, like in one of the ships or something, and it just straight up looked like something you would, like the maze you would walk through, like in Universal Studios with like the timed pyrotechnic fires. Like it just looked incredibly fake. Like it just looked like a set. Like it did not.
A lot
look
of this
like,
movie.
Yeah, it looked.
Yeah, a lot of this movie looked
like,
incredibly fake. And which is weird because the first one, I think we all have sort of a soft spot for the first movie. I definitely do.
Totally.
Jason, I think you do too. I don't know how you feel about it, Angel.
It's cool.
Yeah. But that, I guess, yeah, that leads down to Michael Bay just wanting to one-up himself because the first movie has its charm and never does it look fake. And the CGI in that movie holds up incredibly well. There was some CGI shots in this movie that are like, oof, that's incredibly rough. Which is weird because this is a movie I'm assuming cost $500 million to make. But then all these sets look so fake. There was one that looked like it was straight out of Aliens. I think that might have been the one that Angel was talking about. The set with the robot knights or whatever those things were called.
Yeah, where they're walking around the ship. Yeah.
Oh, which they got there through a submarine that gets activated when the lead actress touches it. And they're in a submarine for what felt like 10 minutes. It might have been 5, but that's still 4 minutes too long.
40 minutes or something.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, dude. This movie does a lot of little things that just adds up to a lot of wasted time. Like, about a minute and a half gets devoted to Hot Rod explaining his French accent. Why? Why does that have
comedy,
to be in this movie?
Kevin? It was funny? Question mark.
I think I laughed at like one or two things.
There were a couple
Tucci's
lines
in the
that
movie
were
at the
actually
beginning.
okay. Yeah, there are a couple.
Stanley
Okay
Tucci's
lines
at the beginning of this movie as Merlin, which is weird.
There were some lines that I know you
last
said
movie.
like, oh, that's a good line, or I don't know if you were being facetious, but
no, there were a couple of good lines on there. I don't remember what
I think it was like, this
what they were at
isn't-
this point.
like this isn't a threat; it's a something.
Oh, it's not a threat because it's not a threat because what was it?
A
yeah,
threat
something like a
implies you
threat.
might not die
A threat
or something.
is you may die. This is you will die, or something like that. I don't remember what it was. I'm botching it, but there's something like that. We're all like, okay, Michael Bay.
Yeah, but oh my god, this movie's filled with other weird lines like Marky Mark threatening to punch a kid in the face.
Oh
right
yeah,
at the beginning of the movie.
that happened.
Yeah, nothing like a little child violence to really get the audiences going.
And again, that also felt like the kind of like they have to one up themselves. So these movies always have involved like a kid or teen element. This one didn't. So they like had a chase scene with a bunch of kids that just happened to trespass where the Transformers were. And the kids were all unceremoniously dropped right after that, except one who randomly sticks around and is in the ending but has no purpose. The one he like kind of adopts. But like, they did the kids at the beginning, like the group of kids, because that's always what Transformers does. So they got to throw it in somewhere, but it really had no purpose. Like they could have introduced her like 10 different ways.
Man, this movie's garbage. Jesus Christ.
It's something. I will say though, to the point of it looking like movie posters, man, did they saturate some of those like big scenes towards the end.
The color grading was so weird across the entire movie.
It's like
who edited this? Was it like 10 random people? Did they not have like a main editor? Like
I like to
some
make the
consistency?
comparison that they're better now, and this isn't a shot at people that love Samsung, but remember when Galaxy phones, like you put like any other phone next to a Galaxy phone and the colors on the Galaxy were like 50 times brighter and more vibrant and like unnecessary, like the greens looked like they were like neon. That's basically the entire last third of the movie. Like if you put like an iPhone next to any older Galaxy phone, that contrast is completely the movie.
Yeah.
It's something. If you think about it actually if you think about it as a ride, like a Universal Studios ride, like how Angel was describing, and how you're talking about how Michael Bay like helped design that ride, this makes sense almost as a ride. Like if you're like, this is some weird roller coaster that you're on, except you're not told it's a ride, you're told it's a movie. Like it makes sense as a ride. Like the drops, so to speak, like the dips in the roller coaster where things get really intense and fast, like those are like super crazy and bombastic and long, and like it's exactly like the type of rush you want that has like the slow build to do it again. It's just no one was told it was a ride. Everyone thought it'd be a movie. Like that, it has like the plotting of like an ride, but it has all the like ups and downs of a ride. Like it kind of.
I don't
makes
know. There's
sense
too
to
much
think of it.
downtime to like make it into a ride.
Actually, that's true. I forgot about the middle. It all kind of blended. Yeah.
The Dinobots that were introduced in the last movie
Are
are barely in this movie. Optimus Prime is barely in this movie. Optimus Prime is probably in 10 minutes of this almost 3-hour long movie.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Is there to be evil?
So do you guys have hope for Beast Wars? It's a different director. It's based on a property that I personally have more affinity towards. Like, Beast Wars was my jam. I watched it every morning before school when I was like in middle school and elementary school. But given that's a different director, is there hope that maybe Beast Wars can actually turn out okay in the way that Bumblebee did? Or like, where are your guys' expectations, having seen what the franchise can spit out with last night at this point?
I'm interested to see what exactly this movie is, because it's not necessarily a Beast Wars movie, because so what we know is that it's set in the 90s, and the beasts are what are they called? The Optimals?
Predacons,
No,
the
Predacons and
the Maximals and the Predacons are going to be shown up, but it's also a Transformers movie. So that means,
but in
Optimus
like a
Prime.
real way or like a loose way that like
It's a sequel to Bumblebee.
There's
So I
I'm
don't.
sorry, it's a sequel to Bumblebee?
Yeah, it's a sequel
Well,
to Bumblebee.
Oh, I thought it was independent.
An image came out from the set of that movie, and there was a chair that had Transformers 7 written on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're
Oh,
just counting
boy.
them all. Like, oh, this is like, I guess, after the last night, or maybe they are just doing a separate
Bumblebee as like Transformers 6.
thing.
Oh,
Would that
that's
make it
weird.
six? Yeah, I guess that would be 6.
Yeah, Bumblebee
Well,
would be
you
a
know,
six
to be
movie.
fair, that could be because they don't have a name for it. Because it is a Transformers franchise, and
No,
I'm sure
there's a
but-
movie. There's a name to it. It's called
it
Rise
called?
of the Beasts.
Is it called Transformers: Rise of the Beast?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's called Transformers Rise of the Beasts.
Oh no! Oh, I thought it'd be called like Beast Wars, like
No,
Grr
it's
or something. Like,
Transformers
so that's
movies.
not.
It's a Transformers movies with Autobots, Decepticons, Predacons.
Oh, that.
I mean, if you
Oh,
want a taste
no.
of what that might be like, you could just watch the Netflix show
no.
Transformers Kingdom, because that one also has a mix of Beast Wars people and the Autobots.
The only Beast Wars I care about is the badly CG'd. Actually, honestly, the CG holds up. We watched some of it, Angel. I think you were there too, Kevin. The
I don't know if it
CG of
holds
Beast
up.
Wars. It's not as bad as I expected. It holds better than like the Donkey Kong CG show from the 90s. It's not good, but it holds better. And the plot surprisingly holds decently. But yeah, if they don't have like New York Wisecracking Rat Trap or things like that, like, or Cheetor, who's like, or whatever his name is, who's like
It does take place in New York, so you might
kind of a
you
jock.
might get,
Like,
might get 'em.
like if they're not there, it's not worth it. That's all I'm saying.
So, I mean, if they do have, let's say, Rat Trap, will he actually be the size of a rat and stay as a tiny little Transformer? Or, you know, like, have him be normal size and can just shrink at will, or just be a giant rat? I don't know. I'm interested to see how they're
my
going to
real
approach
question
that.
is, are they going to go full Beast Wars? Or are they, I guess if they're keeping it Transformers, they need to keep the aesthetic.
Oh, no, it looks like they're only handpicking certain, like, Beast Wars.
Well, no. My
characters,
point
for sure.
is, like, Beast Wars, they turned into, like, straight up animals. Like, then there was Transmetals. And my guess is if it's in the Transformers universe, it's going to stay true to Transmetals, which means they're going to look a little more like car meets animal. Like, Rat Trap had wheels in Transmetals, if you remember. Things like that.
What's
like, Rhinox, I
Transmetals?
think, it was like halfway through, I think it was called Transmetals, right? Like, halfway through Beast Wars Run, they did, like, this riff on it where basically they're like, they were never fully animals. They were like half animal, half vehicle. So like Rat Trap had like wheels, like big back wheels. I think Rhinox was like a tank or something. They all were like shiny and more
Rhinox never
metallic.
transformed in the thing.
Oh, well,
He
never
prob-
mind then.
They might have given him a Transmetal toy, because some characters got some that never.
Yeah,
actually
that's
got
what I mean.
Transmetal versions
That's what I
in the
mean.
show.
Are you talking about Beast Machines?
No. This is before, like, at the end of season
This is before
one,
Beast Machine. Yeah, they found a crystal or something and it did this like thing to them.
essentially something like explodes and it sends out like a giant like wave of like energon that only hits some of the characters, and they pretty much end up like evolving. So like they pretty
Back
much have
towards
like
cars.
so when they have like
they
when they're in their animal mode, yeah, like Megatron suddenly has like jetpacks and roller skates, and Optimus Primal, who already had a jetpack, now just has like a surfboard for some reason.
yeah.
But it's still the same show. Like, it's just, I mean, they even have like a Transmetals 3 at some point for some characters. But
It was basically a way to, they sold however many toys they're going to sell for those characters. How do they sell them again? They make augmented versions.
it was
They were like
handled
androids
in the show
essentially.
pretty well. It was actually pretty.
Yeah, no, I was super into it at the time. I still can't believe so when I moved from Montana out here, I did not keep very many. I kept all my Pokemon stuff, but I got rid of most of my other toys, and it bothers me to this day that I did not keep a single Beast Wars Transformer. I had so many. I was so into it, and I didn't even think of keeping one. It like haunts me. Like I just randomly think, man, I didn't keep a Beast Wars at like random times, like unprompted. I'm not even kidding. Like it's like the one thing I regret when I moved, because I really love that show. So I really hope they do it justice with the movie. And I'm definitely feeling like they're not going to after the last night.
New director. I'm assuming new creative team just in general.
Yeah.
It's a sequel to Bumblebee, which Bumblebee's a good movie.
I like Bumblebee. Yeah, that's
I really
I'm
like
holding on to that hope because of Bumblebee. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. This movie's supposed to come out next year, or I think in 2023. Which, regardless, they can only go up, right?
We think, we assume, we hope.
It can't be.
We pray.
Can't be worse. It can't be worse than this movie.
Yeah. They'll find a way. Well, hopefully they don't find a way, but they could find a way.
This movie is definitely in my bottom 10 movies that I've ever watched in my entire life, for sure. And it's funny because another movie, it's not a reference to it, but it reminded me of it, Suicide Squad, that when they introduce those 4 Decepticons and they give them little title treatments.
And it's like the worst for like a couple seconds.
Oh yeah, and they all get murked in their first fight.
Looking back at that, if you realize that he was in the moment, why are they doing title cards? Why are they, why are they turning this into a heist movie like Ocean's 11 or Suicide Squad? But then when you look back and they did that and then immediately killed them all off, that's actually not a bad gag. It's kind of an okay parody. It just doesn't make. It feels unnecessary, half the movie. It's superfluous. But in and of itself, it's kind of oh, all right, that's a joke. I see.
Yeah, and I never thought I would ever see a repaint of a character in a movie. You expect it in toys, but
who did they change from red to?
Shockwave was straight up just repainted and called someone else.
Oh yeah, it was Shockwave.
They changed it from red to blue, right?
Is it from purple to brown or whatever?
Oh, right. Which in a normal movie, if you look at a Marvel movie, giving a character a new costume is fine because you still know who they are from their face. But in Transformers, everyone already looks kind of the same. So just changing the color doesn't really that just is extremely confusing.
Michael was probably they all pretty much look the same. Yeah, just use the Shockwave model. The Shockwave model is pretty cool, I must admit, especially in Dark of the Moon, but. Yeah, and Michael Bay is known to reuse a lot of footage, but I didn't straight up think that he would ever straight up use a model that he's used before.
And I'm sure if you ask him, he's like, oh, no, we tweaked it. His arm length is different and he moves slightly different, but yeah, they definitely were recycling.
It's definitely a little smaller too. I want to say Shockwave was actually a little bigger.
We took the sizing tool and shrunk it down 10%. It's a different robot. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's something. Yeah,
it's brown now, guys. What are you talking about? It's not Shockwave. It's waveform.
Oh,
right? That's his
brown
name.
now.
What? He's brown now, or whatever color he may be.
And that's probably
brown now.
Brown now.
Gotcha.
Brown now is that Transformer's name? That Decepticon thing.
He's brown now.
Brown now. I guess that's. I'm sorry I made you guys watch that movie. I did have a good time though.
That's the thing about these
because we're
movies
riffing on it pretty.
Oh yeah,
pretty consistently.
And that's the thing is if you're with the right people or person and you're watching a movie that's bad, it can still be as fun or not even more fun maybe than watching a good movie because you can, like you said, riff on it. We can razz on it. We can make cracks about it before or after. We talked about it for half an hour here. Clearly, we got something out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Jason, you want to talk to us about the Tomorrow War?
About Brown Out? Yeah, I do. About Tomorrow War? Tough. Yeah. Yes. Okay. If we're talking about movies that are paint by numbers or trying to achieve something, Tomorrow War is 1,000% that. So this is a movie that you can watch on Amazon Prime Video. It is currently, according to Amazon themselves, the #1 streaming movie in America. I don't know what metric measures that. With a sequel on the way. The Tomorrow War, the day after Tomorrow War. But yeah, this movie is, it's interesting because it's not horrible for most of it. There are some interesting things in there. Some ideas aren't that bad. So basically the premise is a war is happening in the future, about 30 years in the future. Is that right? Maybe somewhere, where there's these aliens that are attacking Earth and all the governments don't try and figure out why or how, but all the governments are like, oh yeah, we got to fight them together and form a coalition where it's an Earth army who then go back in time because they need enough bodies to help fight them. So they go back in time because they are able to make a wormhole, and they're like, hey, people 30 years ago, come fight our war for us. Like, we need your help. We literally don't have enough people. And then all the people in 2022 are like, oh, hey, this seems legit. And then they form a world, like, coalition of armies. And then they start sending people with a worldwide draft into the future to go fight these aliens. That's the premise. In and of itself, okay, maybe, I mean, sure, sci-fi does weird stuff. And for most of the movie, it's kind of following that. It follows Chris Pratt's character, a guy named Dan, who, is just like cliche, like he just wants to save his daughter and he's gonna go and do it and da-da-da-da. But, yeah, and then you keep watching it, and then the third act happens, and things go a little weird. And then you're sitting there noticing how there's, like, a scene that's, like, ripping off Lord of the Rings when Gandalf's falling. There's a scene that's ripping off Alien where they're, like, in the ship. And there's a scene that's ripping off, like, Independence Day. And there's all these things, you're like, wow, this looks familiar. This feels familiar. And then, like, the plot beats start to, like, develop. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is a really contrived conversation about, like, being a bad father. Huh. And it's really early in the movie, and there's no character development. And then you're like, there's this other weird scene where, like, these lines that Chris Pratt's saying, like, oh, I'm not saving the world, I'm just saving my daughter. And there's, like, all this stuff, and you keep watching, and things keep developing, and they keep going to these weird set pieces, and you're like, oh, they're in the Arctic now. Oh, they're over here now. Oh, they're at this weird naval base now. And you start to realize at some point that this is the closest I think we've ever come to a movie that feels like it was written by an algorithm or artificial intelligence. Like, everything about it cribs and borrows from other ideas and just sort of smushes them together. It's like, yeah, this is how movies work, right? Like, this is how you make a sci-fi movie. And like like you could argue some of the scenes are like tributes to other franchises, and sure, maybe that's the case. And obviously someone really did write this. I'm not trying to disparage them too much, but this whole thing feels like, if not written by an algorithm, Amazon, with their vast network of information from Alexas, from, what people watch on Prime Video, from what people buy, they went through all that data and went, all right, here's how you build this movie. And it just feels so like, people want this, they'll get this. People want this, they'll get this. That. The only thing it's missing is a sex scene, basically. Otherwise, it's like exactly everything you'd expect. And there's cool stuff within it. Like, the aliens actually are kind of interesting design. They're called white spikes. They're kind of these, like, multi-tentacled, almost, like, hunchback, like, four-legged creature things. Like, and they, they're actually well designed. Like, the CG in it's not bad, and they look pretty good. But it's just like, the whole movie's just, it feels so, like, built by, made by committee, that the plot just doesn't hold up, especially as you get into the last third. There's a lot of plot holes. There's a lot of oddities. There's a lot of things they're doing where you're just like, you could have done it this other way and saved like 30 minutes in the movie, but they wanted to build a 2-hour movie. So it's something. Like, it's, when you're watching it, it's not horrible per se, but there's some enjoyment to it because there is spectacle. Amazon poured a good amount of money in this, or bought it from Paramount, who poured a good amount of money in this, or however they made it. But like, it definitely, as you're watching it, it just, so many things are just like, wow, this is really like either shallow or such an obvious ripoff of something else, or so like contrived, or so just like they're just doing it because they seem to feel the need to do it. And yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. So, like, it's not as bad. Like, I think, because we were talking about it, Kevin, before it came out, because I think your stay had the premiere, right? At Bank of California?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think we were joking, like, oh, it's generic, the movie. And, all the trailers make it look so generic. And the one-liners that Chris Pratt spouts off are so generic. And it is. It really is. But there's, like, because they kind of built this with an algorithm, it kind of, like, they know what works, they know what's kind of enjoyable, they lean on that. It's just, if you try and follow the plot, it's where things fall apart. It's very similar to Transformers in that regard. I would say it's kind of a tighter version of Transformers, in terms of, like, Transformers meandered, plot points didn't make sense. This has a lot more cohesive plot in terms of just
quality,
moving it forward. Yeah.
Which Transformers movie is it?
Oh, I meant oh god, oh no, somewhere between the third and the fourth, maybe. So, like, it has some moments that are okay, and, like, I didn't regret watching it. I was just like, all right, that's what they're gonna do, okay. And there's stuff that definitely, there's moments where it's like, this doesn't make sense. Why does this character do this? How does this character survive this? There's one scene in particular, I'm not even gonna go, it's kind of a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say, like, the actual outcome, but basically is Chris Pratt and another character, and they're fighting one of the white spikes, and they're kind of like off away from the other characters. Like, they left the other characters, they went somewhere else, and at the very end, they kind of like collapse and relax. And then that other character that was like far away just suddenly collapses next to them. You're like, where'd he come from? He wasn't in the scene. He hasn't been seen in like 10 minutes. Did he walk over there? Like, they went very far. They were in a snowy tundra. How did he get there? But it's like, oh, well, they're all together. It's a happy ending. And that, you're just like, oh, I guess so. It's like stuff like that, kind of, where it's just like a lot of weird little, they just did it because the moment felt like the moment to have, regardless of how they can make that moment happen, if that makes sense. So that's Tomorrow War in a vague way. There is, and also the plot is not very shocking or surprising either. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything. There's not really big twists, though. Like, exactly what you think will happen when they try and do something ends up being what happens. And it's just like, oh, okay. So it is very kind of paint by numbers. But if you need a popcorn flick, like, I definitely enjoyed eating popcorn while watching it. And it's free if you have Amazon. So, you know.
They did announce a sequel. Do they set that up?
I have no idea what that sequel's going to be. I actually know I kind of do. They do sort of. There's some lore that they could explore further that they didn't. Which, again, is kind of funny because the movie was so, like, by the book and so, like, oh, obviously this is going to happen. That then when they made a reference to, like, something that happens that could explain some things, I was like, all right, they're just going to leave that hanging? I guess they could because we all can assume what that means. But then now that you're telling me there's a sequel, yeah, I could see them. I could see a few ways it can go, and they're probably be just as kind of sort of contrived as the main plot. But, you know, you're not watching this movie for the story is why I think, as I'm thinking about it, I've come to realize you're watching it for the crazy action sequences, the explosions, the alien chases. You're watching it as a popcorn flick. So if you go in with that expectation and you go in knowing it's paying homage in such direct ways to so many things as basically, you know, a jigsaw puzzle of other movies they put together, then there's some enjoyment to be had, I guess you could say. So
Gotcha.
That's my kind of brief Tomorrow War impressions. I honestly wasn't planning on watching it, but then a couple of our friends did. And then, weirdly enough, my girlfriend's grandfather was like, hey, Jason, you like sci-fi stuff. You'll probably like this. So I was like, all right, if these many people are casually watching it and one even likes it, I guess I should see what the deal is. So that's how I ended up watching Generic the movie.
One of our friends called it a ripoff of, what was it?
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
I mean, like in concept, I don't see that directly. Because Edge of Tomorrow, you know, the premise is they enlist someone to help in a war that involves time travel, right? That's basically the gist of it. That level, yes, that's true. Beyond that, like, there's not really a time loop. There's not really, you know, it's not Ferris Bueller's Day Off with alien war, but there is an alien war that involves time. So sure, there's a connection. I can see that. But again, it's kind of like, you know, they just borrow ideas from other movies. So, Edge of Tomorrow does alien war with time. Cool, let's do that. Independence Day does they take over everything and, like, blow up city. All right, let's do that. Alien, you know, they're on a ship and you can see them on a ship. Let's do that. Like, they you know, it's very sort of not even winks and nods, just outright borrowing or stealing of stuff. I don't want to say stealing. That sounds harsh, but very heavy-handed homages.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
Tomorrow War.
Movie. It's on Amazon Prime Video if that was glowing enough of an endorsement to watch it.
Oh, and they're pushing the crap out of this movie too. Maybe
Yes,
that's
they
why
are.
it's the most watched movie or whatever.
Also, they very strategically, to be fair, again, by algorithm, what movie is one of the biggest alien invasion movies that everyone loves watching? Independence Day. When do they watch it? July 4th weekend. So what does Amazon do? They take that data, flip it around, and Tomorrow War's out July 4th weekend. Like, it's all very calculated. Like, it's...
Well, I don't think that this was originally meant for an Amazon release.
Yeah, it may not have been. That's fair.
I think this was one of the movies that got knocked into Amazon release.
Probably. Because, yeah, Paramount and Skydance did it, and they typically just put things in theaters. But even with that in mind, apparently the last third of the movie was changed. I don't know if it was changed at the Paramount end or by the Amazon end. It was apparently a lot more nihilistic is the word the director used when I saw some interview about it, and a lot darker. So that was changed. Who knows what else will change, but the marketing around it has definitely been, like, Amazon definitely chose, let's release it July 4th weekend. That was not, you know, that was all them. I mean, the fact that they're still promoting it. They put it in the UFC match the other night, like from my understanding, it was like on the ring, like the actual ads for it. But, I don't watch UFC, I just saw someone reference it. But, yeah, like, they're pushing it super hard, for sure. And they're using every data point they have. It's very much how Netflix, like, crafts their shows around their watch data. Like, it's weird if you think about it that we've always had movies that are, you know, and shows that are like a creator's vision. Then we have ones that are kind of like for the money, sort of. And there's obviously a range in between. It's like a spectrum. But it's very interesting how Netflix is now specifically making shows in specific ways to cater to their algorithm. And then you got Amazon who's specifically doing things in certain ways to cater to algorithm. Like, everything's so data-driven now. It's interesting. And you could argue it always was. It's just there's such a bigger pile of data to sort through and sift through and gather that they're getting so, like, meticulous. Like, literally, when Netflix, from what I've read, when Netflix decides to have, like, a sex scene is based somewhat on viewer behavior patterns. So they know if you get this much into a show, if they do something now, like, catch your attention like a sex scene, maybe you'll keep watching. Which is insane to think about. Like, they got it down to, like, the minute, but that's really how they do these things now. It's crazy.
It's weird. I remember the only reason that House of Cards was made was, or not the only reason, but when they created House of Cards, Netflix was like, what do people love on Netflix? They love Kevin Spacey and David Fincher. Let's put them together. And that's how House of Cards is essentially put together.
Yeah,
Which didn't turn out well.
I love House of Cards. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously Kevin Spacey, there's many issues, but House of Cards as a show for the first couple of years was great. And honestly, even as it started to go downhill, I was invested enough that I really enjoyed it. And then obviously the Spacey thing happened, and as it should, it unfold. They gave Robin Wright the lead and all that kind of, and then they just didn't know what to do with it. And the last season was just it ended really. The last season was not good.
Season 4.
Yeah, I mean, even season 4 was going downhill. Like, to be fair, it was going downhill before Spacey left, or was kicked out. But the first 2 years were like super quality. I love, or maybe even 3. Really, the first year was the best. But yeah, I really enjoyed that show mostly, and it all fell down like a House of Cards. Thank you.
Cool. All right, so we haven't chatted video games in a while, so I thought I'd bring this up to the table. I recently played this free-to-play indie game on Steam called Deepest Sword. And I don't think it's available on any other platforms aside the personal computer. So, which is weird because I think that this game would be a perfect fit on the Switch. So it is a 2D side-scroller with a pixel art style, which, surprise, surprise. But in it, you play as this tiny knight with a sword that is as wide as the knight themselves. And your mission is to go into this cave and slay the dragon at the end of the cave to save your cat. Which, Jason, this game might be for you.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, so the layout of the platforms, the layout of the cave just in general is very simple. It's a very standard affair. It's even simpler than like World 1-2. But the catch is that there is no jump button. So you only move left to right. But to, let's say, get on top of, let's say you have the staircase that you have to traverse, what you do is you use the sword to traverse through all the cave by swinging it above your head and then swinging it to the left or right with the left or right click of your mouse. And so you're almost using it to pull vault yourself to the left and right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're using it as leverage essentially to get yourself.
Yeah, essentially, vertical. And you're using the momentum to get you up higher, to get you across a gap, and it seems pretty simple at first, but when you get to the end of the cave, you find out that your sword isn't long enough, or in this case, deep enough, to pierce through the dragon. So the dragon burns you to a crisp, and then you start at the beginning of the cave. Only this time, the blacksmith that's right outside of it makes your sword longer. But not only that, the cave has also become longer too with a new section added. So this happens multiple times. I wouldn't say multiple times. It's definitely a handful of times. But now with a longer sword, it makes traversal of some sections of the cave much easier, or it even opens up new paths. Like at the very beginning, you have this platform that you can't reach. And after the third run, you can reach it because of how long your sword is. So it's a very, very, very short game. It
does appeal to me if it's short.
Yeah, exactly. It took me 45 minutes to complete, but I've seen speedruns where it can be completed in less than 5 minutes. the cave does get, and the reason that it took me so long is because the cave does get tricky. And even a little frustrating as like you're trying to use the momentum of the sword to just get you across that gap that you just can't figure out how to get over. There's like some, it's a little, I wouldn't call it a puzzle game because it's definitely more of a physics-based platformer. But I don't know, it's, like I said, it took me 45 minutes to complete. It's a nice small little indie game, which I haven't played in forever. Like, I haven't played something this small scale because, as I talk about on Random Nintendo, the scale of the games that I play just engulfed my entire life. And by that, I strictly mean Genshin Impact, which still doesn't have a Switch release date. But they just announced a 2.0 update that I hope comes to Switch, and maybe my prediction of the Traveler getting announced as the final Smash character will come true and piss off a lot of people. But
oh man, if that happens, people are gonna lose their minds.
Yeah, but no, Deepest Sword, fun little game. If you have PC, check it out.
Is it
it's
only
nice.
on PC or is it on like the Mac Steam store too?
I think it can be played on. You know what? It might be on the Mac Steam store. I'm not too sure. This game is not. It's a 2D pixel art game that's free to play. So
right.
Anything I'm sure can play this game. So I'm sure maybe your Mac could even play it.
It's
got a cute little art style. The music can be a little grating just because it's the same track looping for an entire game. But like I said, it's a free to play indie game. So what more can you really expect?
Mechanics wise, it kind of reminds me of, I had to look it up while you were talking actually, but years ago we checked out a game on the Switch called Leichtspiel, which was like this kind of jousty, and yes, you have to put that German accent on it, but it's kind of like this jousty, like you had a pole vaulty pole thing, and it was a side scroller, and
toss
you
javelins.
used it
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, you like toss a javelin. So it's a little different because that one you actually throw the javelin and then move that way. This one you kind of leverage it, but I feel like there's so many like interesting mechanics in games that aren't ever fully explored. Like, we had that 4 years ago. We now have this. Well, and it's only 45 minutes, and that one's pretty short, too. Like, it's just interesting that, like, there's still so many creative things that can happen. And even though this reminds me of that, there's still different mechanics, even though they're kind of the same game. Like, it's kind of cool.
And this one's only 45 minutes because I'm an idiot, and that's how long it took me to beat the game. So, but yeah. And that might actually do it for this episode, unless anybody else got something. Nope. All right.
No.
That's it.
Housekeeping time.
Oh, yeah.
So, as always, let us know what you thought about the episode in the comment section. On YouTube, we are Nintendo.com. You are listening to us on some podcasting app of your choice, or music
We
app of
assume.
your choice.
They could be
yeah.
in the rooms behind us, crouching, and we just don't know. They could be right here.
Do we
with
have
us.
an RSS feed? Like,
We do. If you go
I wonder if
ramtown.com,
anybody uses that.
there is an RSS feed. I don't know, but if you guys want to use it out there, top right of the site, there's a little RSS icon. Go ahead and click that, and it'll take you right to the feed. Because that's how those work. And I don't know why I had to explain it.
We are at Random Nintendo on Twitter. You can follow us individually. Jason is at JSR7. Angel is at WEIRO_O. And I am Kevin Gomi. And next week we will have a brand new Random Nintendo for you where we talk about that Switch OLED, which I'm sure Jason is going to have lots of things to say
I'm
about.
jumping at the bit about how wrong I was on so many things.
He's definitely going to buy it. And that's why I always say they're always wrong until we're right.
Well, we'll get to it. we'll
linger after that.
Yeah. Bloomberg be dumb. But yeah.
That's what's so crazy is I don't know why Bloomberg was dumb. They're usually not dumb. They're usually smart, which is the opposite.
They're just lucky. That's just what it is.
Who was it that reported? Was it Schreier?
Bloomberg. It was the dude from Bloomberg, who's been right about everything. Well, we'll talk about it in a week, but he has a very solid track record. Something went awry.
Very solid track record of being lucky, but never right.
Nope.
100% lucky.
All right, we'll get into it
you
next
waste your
week.
time if you listen to these people. So, yeah.
You literally
Jason,
are indirectly
take us
saying you're wasting your time if you listen to us.
No,
And
if you
guys,
listen
we
to
don't
these
waste your
paid
time.
stuff.
Your time is precious, and there's only so much time in the world. And we appreciate your time, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time with rumors. It's better to at least have speculative, fun discussions about it, but not chomping at the
Don't
bit.
be
Like,
married
this
to
was
it
gonna
and
happen.
attack the company when they don't do the thing they never said they're going to do. Yeah. But we'll talk about that in a week. In the meantime.
Wasn't expecting that from Angel, but yeah. Jason, take us out.
R.I.P. to a real one. Well, his show, Conan O'Brien, 28 years, no longer nightly. You'll be missed. Orange one.